Hello everyone, I'm Profi1322 and this video is going to show the fastest fully upgraded vehicles in the GTA Online Muscle Cars class in terms of top speed. As always, the position counter is in the top left with the actual top speed the vehicle achieved in the top right, and for this 2020 series I'll be showcasing the non-raceable vehicles first. So even though, for example, the Imperator is in the muscle cars class and has the highest top speed overall, since it can't be used in regular muscle car races, it's not going to be included in the main list. We start the regular raceable vehicles list with the Chino in 56th place overall. This video only focuses on straight line performance, so if you're interested in racing where braking, cornering and acceleration are all relevant, check the link in the description for the lap time testing series, and if you want to know more information about this testing, including the extent to which it's accurate and how useful it is for you personally, have a read of the full description as everything that you need is in there. This video lists all vehicles and is correct as of the Los Santos Summer Special Update. For any muscle cars added after that or other classes of cars, check the playlist linked in the second line of the description, and feel free to check out my Patreon or become a YouTube member if you want to support this work and get testing results of any new cars a little bit early. So all the things that I said in the lap time version of this video all apply here as well. The muscle cars class is huge, there's a wide variety of cars. Certainly some cars that shouldn't be here in the muscle cars class, and that leads to a wide variety of top speeds from top to bottom, alongside a lot of cars having very similar top speeds just as a natural consequence of a lot of cars being present. So again, the Arena War vehicles are at the very start of this video because they get the boost upgrade that you can get that gives them a sort of nitrous boost for top speed, so that's why they get the top speeds that they do. But they're not raceable in regular muscle car races, so we're leaving them there at the front. So what is different in this video to the lap time testing video is the ordering of the cars, and we'll see that some cars that were really low down the order for lap time showing much better for top speed and vice versa. So the Moonbeam is one of the classic vehicles from this class that shouldn't really be here, it should be in vans, but it also allows me to mention something that when two vehicles in this list have exactly the same top speed, like the Moonbeam and the Moonbeam Custom here, and you're going to see that a number of times during this list, like I said, just because of a consequence of there being so many vehicles, but when two vehicles share exactly the same top speed, the lap time will determine their position in this list. For example, the Moonbeam Custom has a better lap time than the regular Moonbeam because it gets a rear spoiler upgrade that gives it a better lap time and better traction in the corners. So even though they share exactly the same top speed, the Moonbeam Custom gets the higher position in this list because the lap time is the determining factor there. So you'll see that at some point throughout this, I'm sure, and if you do see that, that's the reason why. Now, a very good example, we're going to have some very good examples coming up very shortly of the thing that I was talking about earlier, where some vehicles, and we're already seeing some examples of it with the Rat Loader and the Rat Truck for example, they were much worse than 43rd place for the Rat Truck in the lap time testing video, but we're going to see a lot of good examples very shortly of vehicles that were really unimpressive or very impressive in the lap time testing video and are very good or very bad around a track in a regular racing situation, but are completely the opposite in terms of top speed. So the Slam Van here in 40th place is a perfect example of that. This was in last place for 56th place for lap time because it's so bad around the corners, but here it is in 40th place for top speed. The Drift Yosemite here were into the top 10 for lap time, but are only down in the bottom end of the 30th positions for top speed. And then we've also got very shortly the Dominator GTX, which has a very, very poor top speed but had very good showing for lap time. Obviously the Manana Custom is kind of a outlier in that respect because it's pretty much exactly the same place as it was for lap time and top speed, but it should be in the Sports Classics class anyway. But the point that I'm making with this is that it shows the crazy variation in the muscle cars class. Muscle cars come in all shapes and sizes, as we've seen. Some are Sports Classics cars, some are vans, and that obviously that's Rockstar's aspect and doing, but even in general, when you're just looking at cars that are meant to be muscle cars and should be in the muscle cars class, they come in all shapes and sizes, while other classes tend to be very samey. For example, all sports cars will have at least respectable cornering abilities and relatively decent straight line speed, with some sports cars just being slightly better than others in those same aspects. With muscle cars, that isn't the case. Cars like the Dominator GTX and the Drift Yosemite have great cornering abilities. They can take corners much quicker than other vehicles around them, but really poor top speeds. The Slam Van has a respectable top speed, but is absolutely awful around the corners and takes an age to stop when braking. There's much more variance in car types in muscle cars than pretty much any other class in the game, and that's most shown with this top speed list, especially towards the end, where cars that really struggle in the corners can shine because they've got a lot of power behind them that gives them that great straight line speed. Top speeds in general, though, aren't that impressive for the muscle cars class. You know, we're in 27th place here with the Vigero. We're only at 112 miles per hour. We're sort of halfway through the list at this point, and these top speeds are fairly unimpressive. When you're looking at any other class, even sport classics, sports cars, we got the Beta Dukes here, just to let you know that 25th place for the Beta Dukes. It has exactly the same top speed as the regular Dukes. This is one of the newest vehicles that we've seen from the Los Santos Summer Special DLC. Same top speed as the regular Dukes, and the reason that it was slower for lap time is just that the regular Dukes is better around the corners, less body roll, better traction, just generally a better vehicle. So a bit disappointing from the Beta Dukes there, but you know, what could you expect from a beaten up version of the car, I suppose. It's in line with what it's meant to be, I guess. But yeah, going back to my previous point, a lot of the other classes, even sport classics, they generally have higher top speeds in the mid pack of the class than what we're seeing here from muscle, and that's in a way a little bit disappointing, because you generally expect muscle cars to have more in the way of top speed and not be able to corner quite as well. Now, muscle cars don't corner very well, they don't have very good traction abilities as a general rule, but they don't have the top speed that sort of, you know, gives the opposite effect from that as well, which is a little bit of a shame. But you know, we're into the top 20 now, and we're seeing some classic vehicles like the Phoenix and the Gauntlet. Again, not that great for the top speed even at this point, 113 miles per hour, but it's interesting that we do still have some old vehicles from back in 2013 and when the game was first released, still being able to get up into these top spots, at least in the top 20, and we are going to see a few of those as we get even further into the list as well. So there's a good mix between, you know, new DLC vehicles and old vehicles as well. It's just, it would be nice if all the muscle cars could be a little bit quicker, but then again, that could be said for most of the cars in the game. So coming into 16th place, we see something different to what we saw from the lap time testing again, with the Duke of Death actually being the best variant of Dukes that we've seen for top speed, a couple of mile per hour quicker than the other two. Obviously we didn't see that when it came to lap time, but we do see that sort of thing with variations of cars quite a lot in the muscle cars class. 3 variations of Dukes, you've got all sort of Vego Classic Customs, lots of Benny's vehicles are generally in the muscle class as well. So there's a lot of, you could say, repeats or related vehicles to other vehicles, not only in the muscle class but to other vehicles in the game. For example, the Coquette Blackfin has the Coquette Classic in the Sports Classics class, and it has the Coquette, the regular Coquette, and the D10 in the Sports class now. We're starting to see that a lot more in the later life of GTA. Very similar, you know, the same vehicle made again. But like I said, generally, even as we're coming towards the top 10, we're not seeing some fantastic top speeds even here. For example, we've got the Yosemite that we just saw in 13th place, and the Clique that we're going to be seeing very shortly as well, only around the 117 mile per hour range, which, you know, there's quite a few vehicles around this range, but this would easily be the bottom half for the sports class in terms of top speed. So we're not really ramping up that top speed as quickly towards the end of the list. You know, we started with 56 vehicles. We're into the top 10, which the Clique does, you know, well to, you know, make it into that top 10. But we're still, you would kind of be expecting, well, if we're looking at other classes as we have done, you're expecting the top speeds to really ramp up at this stage, and we're not really seeing that at this point. Hermes in 9th place does pretty well to get into that top 10 with 117 0.8 miles per hour. The same is said for the same can be said for the Peyote Gasser as well, in 8th place that we're going to see around the same top speed. Again, good examples of vehicles that really poor in terms of cornering and braking and getting around a track in a racing situation, but good enough to get up into the top 10 for top speed. And again, that's really symptomatic of the fact that top speeds for the muscle class probably aren't as high as they really should be. And in fact, we've got a OG original 2013 car, the Ruiner, in 7th place, still holding on very well here with 118.8 mile per hour for its top speed, but we don't even see a breaking the 120 mile per hour barrier until we get to 6th place with the original Dominator. So 2 2013 muscle cars right next to each other of the Ruiner and the Dominator. 120.3 miles per hour for the regular Dominator is a very respectable top speed, just missing out on the top 5, but does very well to hold it there, and it is obviously the first to break that 120 mile per hour barrier. And then probably the perfect car that encapsulates not being able to get around the corners very well, but has a very good top speed, is the Hustler. Very similar to what we saw with the Peyote Gasser and the Hermes in that respect. 121.3 miles per hour for the top speed is good enough for 5th place for the muscle cars class, and that is a very respectable top speed for the Hustler. Not too bad at all, quite fun to race with as well, trying to sort of get it around the corners and manage that top speed with the lack of traction that it has. A car that doesn't suffer from a lack of traction though is the Sabre Turbo Custom, which is the first of the 4 top boys for lap time to put in a very good top speed, and obviously good enough for the top 5. It's got exactly the same top speed as the Hustler of 121.3, but the Sabre Turbo Custom is much better around the corners and is much better in a racing situation, and as I said earlier, that's why it gets that 4th place over the Hustler. And then in 3rd place, we've got the Gauntlet Hellfire. We're taking a big jump in top speed terms now. 125.3 miles per hour for the top speed for the Gauntlet Hellfire. That's 4 miles per hour quicker than even 4th place. And it's certainly the top 3 that jump into a league of their own when it comes to top speed. The Gauntlet Hellfire is one of the best cars to drive in the game from a driving experience perspective. It's not that great around the corners in comparison to the top muscle cars, but it's got a really good top speed. And then we've got another Gauntlet in 2nd place with the Gauntlet Classic Custom, one of the newest additions to the muscle cars class. 125.5 miles per hour for its top speed, so only a quarter of a mile per hour quicker than the Hellfire. It certainly, whatever it lacks in cornering ability, the Gauntlet Classic Custom, it more than makes up for with straight line speed. And it's interesting that the top 3 in the muscle cars class are, in fact the top 4, newer versions of old cars, because ultimately nothing can dethrone the king of the muscle cars class for top speed, the Pisswasser Dominator. At this point, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already for regular lap time and top speed testing videos and updates when new cars are released, and check out other classes in the playlist. I guess it's kind of fitting that a variation of the Dominator is at the top of the list for top speed, with the Gauntlets close behind. The regular 2013 Dominator always used to be in the top spot for top speed until the Pisswasser came along, and now it's joined at the top by variations of the original 2013 Gauntlet as well. So it's, you know, the original names are still at the top, just in a different format and different versions of the car. Basically, there's only 1 mile per hour separating the top 3, and that's a much smaller gap than what we see from, you know, the 1st place to 56th place with the Pisswasser Dominator versus the Chino. That is a massive difference between top to bottom for the muscle cars class, and we will be seeing a comparison between the top raceable and non-raceable vehicles as well, just so you can get an idea of that. But keep in mind that even though there's only 1 mile per hour separating the top 3 in the muscle cars class for top speed, the Pisswasser Dominator is much better in terms of cornering ability than the other two, the 2 Gauntlets. So on any normal track, the Pisswasser Dominator would demolish the 2 Gauntlets. Obviously, if you haven't seen the lap time version of this video, check the playlist links in the description and the pinned comment to find it. It'll be towards the top of that playlist. But yeah, that's all the muscle cars, all 62 muscle cars ranked for top speed, and a fairly new vehicle with the Gauntlet Classic Custom that was only just released having a good showing and popping itself into a surprise second place. So that's pretty much it for this one. Consider supporting on Patreon or become a YouTube member if you want to get testing results early. And remember to read the description for more info, comment with your thoughts, like the video if you enjoyed or found it helpful, and subscribe for more. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.